There are corners of our Earth that feel profoundly surreal, landscapes so defiant and cryptic that they appear less like our home and more like fragments from another galaxy. Imagine volcanoes cradling rivers of molten fire, peaks that pierce the heavens, and ancient deserts where water somehow defies time for millennia. In these realms, nature never bows to humanity. Instead, we must humble ourselves before the planet's raw, untamed power. Today, we are venturing into 25 territories that don't seem to belong to man domains so extraordinary they feel as though they shouldn't exist in this world. Before we dive in, remember to subscribe to the channel and share in the comments. Which location would you dare to visit first? Now, the journey begins. Skipper's Canyon Road, New Zealand. In the mountains of New Zealand's South Island lies a road that many drivers consider one of the most dangerous routes on Earth. Skipper's Canyon Road winds along the steep cliffs above the Shotover River, carved directly into the rock more than a century ago. At first glance, the road appears almost impossibly narrow. In many sections, there is barely enough space for a single vehicle to pass. On one side, a vertical wall of stone presses close to the road. On the other hand, the ground drops hundreds of meters into a deep canyon below. What makes this road especially challenging is that it remains largely unpaved. Loose gravel covers the surface, making traction difficult, particularly after rain. In wet conditions, the road can quickly turn into slippery mud, increasing the risk of losing control. Skipper's Canyon Road was originally built during the gold rush of the 1860s, when thousands of miners rushed into the region searching for fortune along the Shotover River. With limited tools and little regard for safety, workers blasted sections of the road directly into the cliffside. More than 150 years later, much of the road remains almost unchanged. Sharp blind corners, narrow passages, and falling rocks make every kilometer unpredictable. Because of the danger, many rental car companies in New Zealand specifically prohibit drivers from taking their vehicles onto this road. Despite the risks, the journey offers breathtaking views of the canyon. The river below cuts through layers of rock, while rugged mountains rise in every direction. Driving through Skipper's Canyon is less about speed and more about patience and focus. Every turn reminds travelers that in some places, the road itself becomes part of the adventure. Paso de los Caracoles, Chile, Argentina. High in the Andes Mountains, where the air grows thin and the peaks rise sharply into the sky, lies one of the most dramatic mountain roads in South America, known as Paso de los Caracoles, or the Snail Pass. This winding route connects Chile and Argentina through a series of tight, looping turns. From above, the road resembles a giant spiral carved into the mountainside. Dozens of hairpin bends twist back and forth across the steep slopes, each curve stacked above the next, like the coils of a giant shell. The pass climbs to an altitude of more than 3,000 meters above sea level, where the surrounding landscape becomes increasingly harsh and barren. Vegetation disappears, replaced by bare rock and snow-covered peaks that dominate the horizon. Driving here demands constant concentration. Many sections of the road lack protective barriers, leaving only open space between the pavement and the deep valleys far below. During the winter months, heavy snowfall and icy conditions can make the journey even more challenging. Despite the risks, Paso de los Caracoles remains an essential crossing through the Andes. Thousands of trucks and travelers pass through the route each year, transporting goods and connecting communities between the two countries. Yet the road is also famous for its breathtaking scenery. As drivers climb higher, the view expands across endless mountain ranges, where clouds drift between towering peaks, and the silence of the high Andes surrounds the landscape. From certain vantage points, the full pattern of the winding road becomes visible, creating a striking image of human engineering adapting to one of the most rugged environments on the continent. Here, every turn in the road reveals just how powerful and unforgiving the mountains can be. Leaping Zigzag Road, China. Deep in the mountainous regions of southwestern China lies a road that seems to defy logic. The Leaping Zigzag Road twists up the steep slopes in an endless series of sharp turns, creating a pattern that looks almost unreal when viewed from above. From the valley floor, the road appears as a thin line cutting through dense green mountains. But as it climbs higher, it begins to fold back on itself, again and again, forming dozens of tight hairpin bends stacked along the mountainside. These zigzag patterns are not simply a design choice, they are a necessity. The mountains in this region rise so steeply that a straight road would be impossible to build. Instead, engineers created a path that gradually climbs the slope by constantly changing direction, allowing vehicles to gain altitude safely. Even with this design, driving along the road requires patience and precision. Many of the turns are extremely tight, forcing vehicles to slow almost to a stop before continuing upward. One wrong move could send a vehicle dangerously close to the edge of the mountain. Yet the reward for navigating these curves is a breathtaking view. As the road rises higher, travelers are treated to sweeping panoramas of deep valleys, thick forests, and layers of distant mountains fading into the horizon. During certain times of the year, mist drifts through the valleys, making the road appear as though it is floating above a sea of clouds. From above, the entire route resembles a giant geometric pattern drawn across the mountainside, an impressive example of human engineering adapting to one of the most challenging landscapes in the region. Here, every turn is a reminder that sometimes the only way to conquer a mountain is to move slowly and patiently along its curves. Mount Nyiragongo, Democratic Republic of Congo. Some places on Earth reveal the planet's power in its rawest form. Mount Nyiragongo is one of them. Rising above the forests of eastern Congo, this massive volcano looks quiet from a distance, but at its summit lies one of the most extraordinary sights on Earth, a vast lake of molten lava, glowing like a fiery ocean inside the crater. Unlike most volcanoes, Nyiragongo contains one of the largest and most active lava lakes ever recorded. At night, the entire crater glows red, illuminating the sky with a constant, pulsing light. The surface of the lava moves slowly, folding and breaking apart like waves in a burning sea. The secret behind Nyiragongo's unusual behavior lies deep underground. Its lava is extremely fluid compared to most volcanic magma. Because it flows so easily, it can travel at astonishing speeds, sometimes reaching up to 60 kilometers per hour during eruptions. When the volcano erupts, Rivers of fire can race down the mountain slopes before anyone has time to react. This is why Nyiragongo is considered one of the most dangerous volcanoes on the planet. In 2002, a sudden eruption sent lava streams directly into the nearby city of Goma, destroying thousands of homes and forcing hundreds of thousands of people to flee. Yet, despite the danger, the volcano continues to attract scientists and explorers from around the world. Standing on the rim of the crater, watching the glowing lava swirl far below, visitors witness something few places on Earth can show so clearly: a reminder that beneath the solid ground we walk on, the planet is still alive, restless, powerful, and far beyond human control. Danakil Depression, Ethiopia. Few places on Earth feel as hostile and otherworldly as the Danakil Depression. Located in northeastern Ethiopia, this vast geological basin sits more than 100 meters below sea level and is widely considered one of the hottest inhabited places on the planet. Daytime temperatures regularly soar above 45 degrees Celsius, turning the landscape into a furnace of heat and light. But what truly makes the Danakil Depression extraordinary is its appearance. The ground is covered with surreal formations of bright yellow, green, and orange minerals created by volcanic gases escaping from deep within the earth. Pools of acidic water bubble across the surface, forming patterns that look almost like paint spilled across the desert floor. This strange landscape exists because the Danakil region lies at the meeting point of three tectonic plates: the African plate, the Arabian plate, and the Somali plate. These massive pieces of Earth's crust are slowly pulling away from one another, stretching and cracking the ground beneath them. As the crust thins, magma rises closer to the surface, heating underground water and releasing gases rich in sulfur and iron. Over time, these minerals crystallize into the vibrant formations that give the Danakil Depression its alien-like colors. Despite the extreme conditions, small communities of Afar people have lived in this region for centuries, extracting blocks of salt from the desert and transporting them across the harsh terrain by camel caravans. Standing in the Danakil Depression feels less like visiting another country and more like stepping onto another planet, one where the Earth itself is still being formed. Ijen Crater, Indonesia. At first glance, Mount Ijen appears to be just another volcano rising above the forests of eastern Java. But after sunset, this mountain reveals one of the most unusual natural phenomena on Earth. From the darkness of the crater, electric blue flames suddenly appear, flickering across the rocky slopes like ghostly fire. The sight is so surreal that many visitors believe they are witnessing something supernatural. In reality, these mysterious blue flames are the result of burning sulfuric gases. Deep beneath the volcano, molten sulfur rises through cracks in the rock and escapes as hot gas. When these gases come into contact with oxygen at extremely high temperatures, they ignite, producing bright blue flames that can reach several meters in height. During the night, the glowing sulfur flows down the crater walls like rivers of liquid fire, creating a spectacle unlike anything else on the planet. Inside the crater, lies another extreme feature, a vast turquoise lake that is actually one of the most acidic bodies of water in the world. The water's striking color comes from dissolved metals and sulfur compounds released by the volcano's activity. Despite the toxic gases and dangerous conditions, local miners descend into the crater every day to collect solid blocks of sulfur. Carrying loads that can weigh more than 70 kilograms, they climb the steep path back up the mountain in one of the most physically demanding jobs on Earth. Standing on the edge of the crater at night, watching blue fire dance across the darkness, it becomes clear that Ijen is not just a volcano. It is a rare glimpse into the powerful chemical forces shaping our planet. K2, Pakistan-China border. Some mountains are difficult to climb. Others are simply unforgiving. K2 belongs to the second category. Rising 8,611 meters above sea level, K2 is the second highest mountain on Earth, standing deep within the Karakoram Range along the border of Pakistan and China. From a distance, its sharp, pyramid-shaped peak dominates the horizon, appearing almost impossibly steep compared to other great mountains. While Mount Everest holds the title of the tallest mountain in the world, K2 is widely considered the most dangerous. Its slopes are far steeper, the weather far less predictable, and the climbing routes far more technical. Sudden storms can form within minutes, bringing violent winds and freezing temperatures that push human endurance to its limits. Above 8,000 meters lies what climbers call the death zone. At this altitude, the air contains only about 1/3 of the oxygen found at sea level. Every step becomes a struggle, and the body slowly begins to shut down. The terrain itself offers little mercy. Massive ice walls, unstable glaciers, and narrow ridges make progress extremely slow and dangerous. One of the most feared sections, known as the bottleneck, forces climbers to pass beneath towering blocks of unstable ice that could collapse at any moment. Because of these conditions, K2 has one of the highest fatality rates of any mountain of its size. Many climbers who attempt to reach its summit never return. Yet, despite the risks, K2 continues to attract the most experienced mountaineers in the world. For them, standing on its summit represents the ultimate challenge, an encounter with one of the few places on Earth where nature still sets the rules completely. Yosemite Falls, United States. In the heart of California's Yosemite National Park, water plunges from the sky with a force that seems almost unreal. This is Yosemite Falls, one of the tallest waterfalls on Earth. From the valley floor, the falls appear as a long white ribbon cascading down the face of towering granite cliffs. But its true scale is difficult to grasp until you realize the water drops a staggering 739 meters from top to bottom. Yosemite Falls is actually made up of three separate sections: the upper falls, the middle cascades, and the lower falls. Together, they create a continuous descent of roaring water that echoes throughout the valley. During spring, when snow from the Sierra Nevada mountains melts rapidly, the waterfall reaches its most powerful state. Enormous volumes of water crash against the rock below, producing a thunderous sound that can be heard from kilometers away. As the water falls through the air, powerful winds rising from the valley often push the spray sideways. This creates a shimmering cloud of mist that can fill the entire area with drifting droplets and brilliant rainbows. The cliffs surrounding Yosemite Falls were formed millions of years ago as glaciers carved through the valley, leaving behind steep granite walls that now provide the perfect stage for this dramatic cascade. Standing at the base of the waterfall, visitors quickly realize how immense it truly is. The sound of the water, the cool mist in the air, and the towering cliffs above create a moment that feels both peaceful and overwhelming at the same time. It is a place where gravity, water, and stone combine to produce one of the most breathtaking natural spectacles in North America. Hukou Waterfall, China. Most waterfalls are known for their height. Hukou Waterfall is famous for something entirely different: its overwhelming force. Located along the Yellow River, between the provinces of Shaanxi and Shanxi, Hukou is the largest waterfall on China's second longest river. Unlike towering waterfalls that drop from great heights, Hukou's power comes from the way the river is suddenly compressed. For hundreds of kilometers, the Yellow River flows across wide plains, sometimes stretching more than 250 meters across. But when it reaches Hukou, the river is abruptly forced through a narrow stone channel only about 30 meters wide. This sudden constriction creates an explosive surge of water. The massive volume of the river is squeezed through the gap, accelerating the current and sending enormous waves crashing into a deep basin below. The result is a roaring cascade that looks less like a traditional waterfall and more like a boiling cauldron of churning water. Hukou's distinctive golden color comes from the enormous amount of sediment carried by the Yellow River. The river originates in the Loess Plateau, where fine yellow soil is easily eroded and swept downstream. As the water crashes through the narrow gorge, millions of tons of sediment swirl through the current, giving the waterfall its unique muddy gold appearance. During flood season, the power of the waterfall becomes even more dramatic. The thunderous roar can reach over 100 decibels, and thick clouds of mist rise high above the canyon walls. Standing near the edge of Hukou Waterfall, the sheer energy of the river is impossible to ignore. It is a powerful reminder that even without towering cliffs, water alone can carve and shape the land with unstoppable force. Enshi Grand Canyon, China. Deep within the mountains of Hubei province lies a landscape that seems sculpted by both patience and precision. The Enshi Grand Canyon stretches for more than 100 kilometers, carved slowly by water, wind, and time. Towering cliffs of limestone rise dramatically above the valley floor, forming narrow gorges and deep ravines that twist through the mountains. But among all the natural formations here, one stands out above the rest. It is known as the incense stick. This astonishing pillar of rock rises nearly 150 meters into the air, yet its base measures only about 4 meters across. From a distance, the formation appears impossibly thin, like a fragile column that could collapse at any moment. And yet, it has stood upright for thousands of years. The secret behind its stability lies in the structure of the limestone itself. The rock here is rich in dense calcite, and over time, the erosion removed the weaker layers surrounding it. What remains is a single, incredibly solid column with very few internal cracks, allowing the weight of the stone to balance perfectly over its narrow base. The canyon surrounding the pillar is part of a vast karst landscape, a terrain formed when slightly acidic rainwater slowly dissolves limestone over millions of years. This process creates caves, underground rivers, and dramatic rock formations that reshape the landscape from both above and below. As mist drifts through the valley and sunlight reflects off the pale cliffs, the Enshi Grand Canyon takes on an almost dreamlike appearance. Standing before the incense stick, it is difficult not to wonder how something so slender could remain standing against the relentless forces of nature. Yet its quiet strength is proof that sometimes the most improbable shapes are the ones that endure the longest. Zhangye, Danxia, Landform, China. In the remote mountains of Gansu province lies a landscape that looks almost too colorful to be real. Rolling hills stretch across the horizon in waves of red, orange, yellow, and deep crimson, creating one of the most visually striking geological formations on Earth. This is the Zhangye Danxia landform, often called the Rainbow Mountains of China. At first glance, the mountains appear as if they were painted by hand. Layers of vibrant color ripple across the slopes, forming patterns that resemble giant brushstrokes on a natural canvas. But these colors are not the work of human imagination. They are the result of a geological process that has been unfolding for tens of millions of years. Around 24 million years ago, this region was covered by vast layers of sandstone and mineral-rich sediments. Over time, iron and other minerals within the rock slowly oxidized, creating the deep red and orange tones visible today. Later, powerful tectonic forces, the same ones that lifted the Himalayas, pushed these layered rocks upward. As the land rose, wind and rain gradually eroded the surface, exposing the colored strata that had been buried beneath the earth. What makes Zhangye Danxia especially remarkable is how clearly these layers remain visible. Each band of color represents a different period in the planet's geological history, like pages in an ancient record written in stone. The appearance of the mountains changes throughout the day. As sunlight shifts across the landscape, the colors grow brighter or darker, transforming the terrain into a constantly changing panorama. Walking among these hills can feel like stepping into a painting where the ground itself tells the story of the Earth's past. It is a place where geology becomes art, revealing the slow but powerful forces that shape the planet over millions of years. Socotra Highlands, Yemen. Far out in the Arabian Sea lies an island that seems almost disconnected from the rest of the world. Socotra, part of Yemen, has been isolated for millions of years, allowing life here to evolve in extraordinary ways. Rising above the island's rugged terrain are the Socotra Highlands, a mountainous region where the landscape feels strangely unfamiliar, almost alien. The most iconic sight here is the Dragon's Blood Tree. With its wide umbrella-shaped crown and thick twisting trunk, the tree looks less like ordinary vegetation and more like something imagined in a science fiction film. When its bark is cut, it releases a deep red sap, which gives the tree its mysterious name. Socotra's long isolation has turned the island into one of the most unique ecosystems on Earth. Scientists estimate that nearly 1/3 of its plant species exist nowhere else on the planet. The unusual shapes of many plants here are not just for appearance, they are survival strategies. The dragon's blood tree, for example, spreads its dense canopy outward to capture moisture from fog and protect the soil beneath it from the intense sun. The highlands themselves are shaped by strong seasonal winds and dramatic changes in climate. During the monsoon season, powerful winds sweep across the mountains, while the rest of the year remains dry and harsh. Despite these extreme conditions, life has adapted in remarkable ways. Rare birds, reptiles, and plants thrive in this isolated environment, forming an ecosystem unlike any other. Standing among the strange silhouettes of Socotra's trees, it is easy to feel as though you have stepped onto another planet. Yet this extraordinary world is very much part of our own, hidden quietly in the vastness of the Arabian Sea. Lake Assal, Djibouti. In the heart of East Africa lies a place where the landscape seems almost stripped down to its most extreme elements. Lake Assal, located in the small country of Djibouti, is one of the most unusual lakes on Earth. Sitting about 155 meters below sea level, it is the lowest point on the African continent and one of the lowest places anywhere on the planet. From above, the lake appears as a brilliant patch of turquoise surrounded by endless white plains of salt. The contrast between the deep blue water and the blinding white crystals creates a landscape that feels stark, surreal, and almost lunar. But Lake Assal is not just visually striking. It is also one of the saltiest bodies of water in the world. Its salinity is nearly 10 times higher than that of the ocean. This extreme concentration of salt forms because the lake lies in a closed basin where water can enter but cannot easily escape. Under the intense desert heat, the water constantly evaporates, leaving behind thick layers of crystallized salt that spread across the surrounding terrain. Geologically, the lake sits within the Afar Triangle, one of the most active tectonic regions on Earth. Here, 3 tectonic plates are slowly pulling apart, gradually stretching the crust and allowing magma from deep within the Earth to rise closer to the surface. Despite the harsh conditions, Lake Assal has long been an important resource for local communities. For generations, salt blocks have been harvested from its shores and transported across the desert by camel caravans. Standing beside the lake, the air shimmers with heat, and the landscape stretches endlessly in every direction. It is a place where water, salt, and sunlight combine to create one of the most extreme environments on the African continent. Crescent Moon Lake, China. In the vast emptiness of the Gobi Desert, where towering dunes stretch endlessly across the horizon, there is a place that seems to defy the rules of nature. Surrounded by an ocean of sand lies a small oasis known as Crescent Moon Lake. True to its name, the lake curves gently like a silver crescent resting between the dunes. For more than 2,000 years, this fragile body of freshwater has existed in one of the harshest desert environments on Earth. Temperatures here can swing dramatically between scorching days and freezing nights, while powerful desert winds constantly reshape the surrounding sand. Yet the lake remains. The secret to its survival lies beneath the surface. Crescent Moon Lake is fed by an underground aquifer that slowly replenishes its water supply. Even as intense desert heat causes evaporation, this hidden source helps maintain the lake's delicate balance. Equally important is the shape of the dunes surrounding it. The nearby Mingsha Dunes form a natural barrier that alters the airflow across the desert. When strong winds blow through the area, the dunes redirect the sand upward and away from the lake, preventing it from being buried. This subtle interaction between wind, sand, and water has protected the oasis for centuries. Historically, Crescent Moon Lake was an important stop along the ancient Silk Road, offering travelers a rare source of water in the otherwise unforgiving desert. Today, the contrast between the calm blue lake and the towering golden dunes creates one of the most beautiful desert landscapes in China. Standing at its edge, with the wind sweeping across the sand and the silence of the desert all around, it feels almost impossible that such a delicate oasis could survive here for so long. Yading Nature Reserve, China. High in the mountains of Sichuan province lies a landscape so pristine and dramatic that it is often described as one of the last untouched sanctuaries of the Himalayas. This is the Yading Nature Reserve, a place where glaciers, forests, and alpine lakes create a world of striking natural beauty. Towering above the valley are three sacred peaks that rise more than 6,000 meters into the sky. Their snow-covered summits dominate the horizon, reflecting sunlight across the surrounding mountains. At their feet lie a series of crystal-clear alpine lakes, each with a color so vivid it almost appears unreal. Among them, one of the most famous is the Five-Color Lake, whose surface shifts between shades of turquoise, emerald, and deep blue. The extraordinary colors of these lakes come from an unusual natural process. As glaciers slowly melt high in the mountains, they grind the surrounding rock into extremely fine particles known as glacial flour. These tiny mineral fragments remain suspended in the water and scatter sunlight in different ways, intensifying the blue and green tones visible to the human eye. The entire region functions as a fragile alpine ecosystem. The glaciers feed streams that supply pure water to the valleys below, while dense forests provide habitat for rare wildlife such as snow leopards, red pandas, and golden snub-nosed monkeys. Because of its remote location and difficult terrain, much of Yading has remained remarkably well preserved. The isolation has allowed natural processes to continue largely undisturbed for thousands of years. Standing beside one of its alpine lakes, surrounded by snow-covered peaks and silent forests, visitors often feel as though they have stepped into a landscape untouched by time. It is a rare glimpse of the earth in its most pristine and powerful form. Gunung Mulu Caves, Malaysia. Hidden beneath the dense rainforests of Borneo lies a vast underground world carved slowly by water over millions of years. The Gunung Mulu Caves, located within Gunung Mulu National Park in Malaysia, form one of the most extraordinary cave systems on Earth. From the outside, the park appears as a landscape of thick jungle and rugged limestone mountains. But beneath the surface lies a labyrinth of enormous chambers, tunnels, and underground rivers that stretch for hundreds of kilometers. Among these formations is the Sarawak Chamber, the largest cave chamber in the world by volume. The space inside is so immense that it could fit dozens of jumbo jets side by side. Its ceiling rises hundreds of meters above the cave floor, disappearing into darkness. The caves formed through a process typical of karst landscapes. Over time, slightly acidic rainwater seeped into cracks in the limestone mountains. As the water flowed underground, it slowly dissolved the rock, gradually widening passages and carving out enormous chambers beneath the earth. Inside the caves, delicate formations, known as stalactites and stalagmites, hang from the ceilings and rise from the floors, created by mineral-rich water dripping over thousands of years. Yet the caves are not silent or lifeless. Every evening, millions of bats emerge from the cave entrances in a spectacular, swirling column that rises into the sky like a living cloud. This daily migration is one of the most dramatic wildlife events in the natural world. Gunung Mulu is also home to an incredible range of unique plants and animals that have adapted to the darkness of the underground environment. Exploring these vast caverns can feel like entering a hidden world beneath the rainforest, one where time moves slowly, and the forces of water and stone continue shaping the planet in silence. Mount Tianmen, China. In the mountains of Hunan province stands a natural formation so dramatic that it has been called the Gateway to Heaven. Mount Tianmen rises more than 1,500 meters above sea level, and at its center lies a massive opening in the mountain itself. This enormous natural arch, known as Heaven's Gate, reaches about 131 meters high and cuts completely through the rock face. From a distance, the opening looks like a giant window carved into the mountain, framing the sky behind it. The formation was created over millions of years as water slowly eroded the limestone rock, gradually widening a natural cavity until it became the immense arch visible today. Reaching the arch is an adventure in itself. The road leading up the mountain is famous for its 99 sharp turns, winding dramatically along the steep slopes. From above, the route resembles a twisting ribbon climbing toward the clouds. At the top, visitors must climb 999 stone steps that lead directly to Heaven's Gate. The staircase rises steeply between towering rock walls, creating the feeling of ascending into the mountain itself. Mount Tianmen is also known for its glass skywalks, narrow pathways built along the cliffs that allow visitors to look straight down into the deep valleys below. The region is often covered in mist, and when clouds drift through the arch, the opening appears to float in the sky. This surreal atmosphere has helped make Mount Tianmen one of the most iconic landscapes in China. Standing beneath the enormous arch, surrounded by towering cliffs and shifting clouds, it becomes easy to understand why people once believed this mountain formed a bridge between the earth and the heavens. Congo River, Central Africa. Stretching across the heart of Africa, the Congo River is one of the most powerful and mysterious waterways on the planet. Flowing for more than 4,700 kilometers, it is the second longest river in Africa and one of the largest by volume anywhere in the world. From above, the river appears like a massive dark ribbon winding through the dense rainforest of the Congo Basin. In many places, its waters spread wide and calm, reflecting the endless canopy of jungle that surrounds it. But beneath that surface lies extraordinary power. The Congo River is the deepest river on Earth, reaching depths of more than 220 meters in certain sections. Hidden beneath its surface are powerful currents that twist and collide through narrow channels carved into the ancient rock below. These underwater currents create an environment unlike any other river system. Scientists have discovered unique fish species living at different depths, each adapted to survive in extreme pressure and darkness. Along its journey, the river passes through dense tropical forests that contain some of the most biodiverse ecosystems on the planet. The surrounding rainforest is home to gorillas, forest elephants, and countless species of birds, insects, and plants. For millions of people living in Central Africa, the Congo River is a vital lifeline. It serves as a major transportation route, a source of food, and a connection between remote communities scattered throughout the rainforest. Yet the river also commands respect. During the rainy season, its waters can rise dramatically, creating powerful rapids and dangerous whirlpools that challenge even the most experienced boatmen. Standing on the banks of the Congo River, watching the dark waters surge past, it becomes clear that this is not just a river. It is a force of nature flowing through the very center of the African continent. Yuanyang Rice Terraces, China. In the mountains of Yunnan province, the slopes of entire valleys have been transformed into one of the most remarkable agricultural landscapes on Earth. These are the Yuanyang Rice Terraces, a vast network of stepped fields carved into the mountains by generations of farmers. From a distance, the terraces appear like giant contour lines wrapping around the hillsides. Thousands of narrow fields climb from the valley floor to the mountain peaks, creating a pattern that stretches across more than 16,000 hectares of land. The terraces were built over the course of more than 1,300 years by the Hani people, an ethnic group that developed an extraordinary system for farming in steep mountain terrain. Their success depends on a carefully balanced relationship between forest, water, village, and farmland. At the top of the mountains, dense forests capture rainfall and store moisture in the soil. This water slowly flows downhill through a network of small channels and streams. As gravity pulls the water downward, it fills each terrace one level at a time. The fields act like natural reservoirs, holding the water long enough for rice to grow before passing it gently to the next level below. During certain seasons, when the terraces are filled with water but not yet planted, the fields become vast mirrors reflecting the sky. Sunlight, clouds, and mist ripple across thousands of small pools, turning the entire mountainside into a living landscape of light and color. The Yuanyang terraces are not only beautiful, they are also a powerful example of sustainable agriculture. For centuries, this system has allowed communities to farm difficult terrain while preserving the surrounding ecosystem. Standing above the terraces, watching the layers of fields descend through the mountains, it becomes clear that this landscape is not simply shaped by nature or by humans alone, but by the delicate balance between the two. Fujian Tulou, China. In the mountainous countryside of Fujian province stand some of the most unusual residential structures ever built. Known as Tulou, these massive earthen buildings were designed to house entire communities within a single fortified structure. From the outside, a Tulou looks almost like a giant circular fortress rising from the ground. Thick walls made of compacted earth surround the building, often reaching more than 1 meter in thickness at the base. These walls were built using layers of soil, sand, lime, and wooden supports, all pressed tightly together to form a structure of remarkable strength. Some Tulou buildings are circular, while others are square or rectangular. But regardless of shape, they all share the same concept: a large central courtyard surrounded by several floors of living spaces. Inside, dozens or even hundreds of families live together as part of a single clan community. Each household occupies a vertical section of the building, typically spanning multiple floors. The design serves many purposes. The thick earthen walls help regulate temperature, keeping the interior cool during hot summers and warm during colder seasons. The enclosed structure also provided protection against bandits and external attacks in centuries past. Many Tulou were built between the 11th and 20th centuries, and some of them can house up to 800 people within a single building. Despite their age, many Tulou remain inhabited today. The communities living inside continue to maintain the buildings using traditional methods passed down through generations. Seen from above, the circular structures appear almost perfectly symmetrical, resembling giant rings embedded in the landscape. They are not just architectural curiosities, but living examples of how design, environment, and community life can merge into a single, enduring structure. Mount Tambora, Indonesia. In April of 1815, a remote volcano on the Indonesian island of Sumbawa unleashed one of the most powerful eruptions in recorded history. That volcano was Mount Tambora, and its explosion changed the world. Before the eruption, Tambora stood more than 4,300 meters high, towering above the surrounding islands. But when the volcano erupted, the force of the explosion was so immense that it destroyed the entire summit of the mountain. The blast could be heard more than 2,000 kilometers away, and massive clouds of volcanic ash shot high into the atmosphere. Entire villages near the volcano were buried, and tens of thousands of people lost their lives in the disaster and its aftermath. Yet the eruption not only affected the region around the volcano, the enormous amount of ash and sulfur released into the atmosphere spread around the globe, blocking sunlight and altering weather patterns. The following year, 1816, became known as the Year Without a Summer. Temperatures dropped across Europe and North America. Crops failed, snow fell during the summer months in some regions, and food shortages spread across multiple continents. Today, Mount Tambora still rises above the island of Sumbawa, though its height is now about 2,850 meters. At the summit lies a vast caldera, nearly 7 kilometers wide, a massive crater left behind by the catastrophic eruption. Over time, vegetation has slowly returned to the slopes of the volcano, and forests now cover much of the surrounding land. Standing on the edge of Tambora's enormous crater, it is difficult to imagine the unimaginable force that once reshaped this mountain and briefly changed the climate of the entire planet. Mount Emei, China. Rising high above the mist-covered landscapes of Sichuan province, Mount Emei is one of the most sacred mountains in China. For centuries, pilgrims have climbed its slopes to reach ancient temples hidden among forests and cliffs. But beyond its spiritual significance, Mount Emei is also known for one of the most fascinating atmospheric phenomena in nature. At certain moments, when the conditions are just right, visitors standing on the mountain's summit may witness a rare optical effect known as the Buddha's halo. When sunlight shines behind an observer and passes through the tiny droplets of mist that often surround the peak, the light bends and scatters. The result is a glowing circular rainbow that forms around the shadow of the observer projected onto the clouds below. The effect can appear suddenly and disappear just as quickly, creating the impression that a luminous ring of light is floating in the air. Mount Emei's high altitude and humid climate make it an ideal place for this phenomenon to occur. Warm air rising from the forests meets cooler air at higher elevations, producing the thick layers of mist that drift around the mountain peaks. Beyond its dramatic views, the mountain is also a sanctuary for biodiversity. Its forests contain ancient plant species that date back millions of years, along with rare animals that have survived in this protected environment. Standing on the summit of Mount Emei, surrounded by clouds and endless mountain ranges, visitors often feel as though they are walking above the world itself. It is a place where nature, science, and ancient tradition come together in one remarkable landscape. Across mountains, deserts, forests, and oceans, our planet hides places that challenge everything we think we know about the world. Landscapes shaped by fire, ice, wind, and time environments so extreme that they feel almost alien to us. These places remind us of a simple truth. Earth is far more powerful, mysterious, and unpredictable than we often imagine. In many corners of the planet, nature still writes its own rules, and humanity is only a brief visitor. Which of these places amazed you the most? Tell us in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more journeys to the most extraordinary landscapes on Earth. Until the next adventure, keep exploring.